Everybody.
And also joining me on the show is Jen Nalunga, who is the Executive Director of Siatini, Uganda. Always a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you for inviting me, and good morning, our viewers.
Honorable Katabazi, I'll begin with you. You spent a couple of years campaigning in Ruchiga County. You were on ground, I think, more than before. What is the situation on ground like for parish development model? Do these numbers that we've just looked at really reflect the situation on ground, or it's worse?
I think the numbers that you've just read to us tell a story that relates with some of the things that are happening. But because now the numbers relate to the countrywide story, so it may not be as explosive as it sounds on the screen. When you come to areas such as Ruchiga, I must say that the implementation of PDM has gone quite well. But there are still some challenges, I think, that are very evident, because this was a massive program. This program has given publicity by the president and many other stakeholders, and to that very extent, of course, the expectations have been very, very high. And some of the criticisms that are coming to PDM largely come from the high expectations that were already in the community. For example, now, PDM was designed to cater for the 40% who are falling outside the money economy the president has been talking about. And oftentimes, the difference between the poor and the poorest in our villages is extremely small. And that's why you've seen some people from Zimbabwe earlier on saying that those who deserve have actually not got the money, and those who don't deserve actually got the money. It is extremely difficult to tell if you're looking for the first 100 poorest people in the village. Getting those people is extremely complicated. So we have scenarios where, because the money that has been disbursed every single financial year is certainly not enough to cover everybody. There are villages that are smaller than others. There are parishes that are bigger than others, to the extent that there are some parishes in Ruchiga, for example. If you are to give money at this rate, I know it has now doubled in this financial that is coming, but even if you doubled it, if you are to give the money at the rate and the proposed rate, it will take about 10 years for every single person who deserves to get this money.
Right.
So in that case, that drives a narrative that there are those who don't deserve, but who get the money. There are also some other fraudulent activities that are happening, where people, like you're saying, are using one ID to get money. Then there are those actually who are being crafted into the scheme, but when the money comes, it comes through a different phone number, a number of another person. We have seen a scenario like that one. We've also seen scenarios where people who sit at the parish committee actually do solicit bribes from the intended beneficiaries. So now, but remember now, this 1 million shilling attracts, after the grace period of 2 years, attracts 6% as interest. So that's about 120,000 that somebody is expected to pay back after 2 years. So, but now you've given somebody less than by 100,000 or even 60,000 on money that somebody is supposed to invest and also return. That will complicate the story of recovery, because somebody was saying, you know what, I'm being told to return the 1 million plus interest on it, but I never actually got all the money.
That's right.
But by and large, the system is very elaborate, and where there have been problems in terms of people not getting the money or the wrong person getting the money, at least there's a system that can be able to track. So they have a robust system, a digital system, I think through some app called Wendy, that can be able to trace this. And the work of the auditors is not going to be very complicated. The work of the RDCs on ground and others who are looking at this project is not going to be very complicated, because at least money passes through the system. If there's any problem at any rate, they will be able to catch it.
Jen, we could be celebrating that 84% is such a big percentage of the households that have received this money, 84%. But the thing is, you've received this money, but have you used it for its intended purpose? Actually, Honorable Katabazi now brings in a new dynamic that, first of all, you're not receiving all of it. There are people soliciting for handouts at the parish. But is this money actually doing the actual work on ground it's intended for?
Okay. That's a huge question. What's the money intended for? But I think before we go there, I think we need to go back and discuss why PDM. Because what we need to understand that PDM is really important. There are people at that level, at household level, who need patient capital. You know, some money, some injection of capital to be able to put it in their own businesses. So we need to agree, is PDM good or is it a bad program? You know, then we look at why is it not working, the issues Honorable has raised. And then we see how do we address those challenges. I remember in his speech, Honorable Musasi talked about it, that PDM and Emyoga will be connected to value chains, you know, because at the end of the day, when you look at the way the money is given to the households, to the people, even knowing what to use that money for is a problem. You see, I have had stories, by the way, we haven't done research on the ground, but sometimes people get that money, they drink, they pay their loans. So for me, I think we need to streamline the system, because for me, I think this debate is healthy. This debate is not about bashing PDM, but being objective to see how it can work better. You know, for me, I think that should be the purpose.
But why is it that poverty eradication programs are always failing on the same reasons? Failure to track those who have received it, the money failing to do what its intended purpose is.
Then
it looks like a pattern.
It's a pattern which we need to break. It's a pattern which we need to break. And I think there are some people who are sleeping on the job. There are things which need to be done, before the monies are disbursed. When you look at the pillars of PDM, there is a pillar on governance and administration. They were supposed to give capacity to the parish chiefs and to the councils. It's not done, you know. People are supposed to get information. Information, for example, what Honorable is saying, that after 2 years, it's a revolving fund. After 2 years, you are supposed to pay back. Most people are saying, we didn't know that. We thought it was, you know, money given to us, it's free money. So when you look at the ecosystem around PDM, there are lots of gaps. There are, for example, extension workers and community development officers are supposed to sit with the parish people, with the people at parish model, and be able to discuss enterprises. What enterprise are you going to do? What are your economic goals? What viable business can be done as a community? CDOs and extension workers are not doing that. So what needs to be done, I think, is to be able to analyze all those gaps and challenges and see how we can be able to address them.
Right. Honorable Katabazi, the money for PDM has become more for consumption rather than investment. What happens on ground is that you have, when you look at the Auditor General's report, all these programs have first elite capture. There are people who are responsible for where the money goes, and they know who to give the money and who not to. And then there are also massive leakages of money disappearing, and you cannot trace where it is. Then the biggest problem, that 9.3 billion shillings, is just a rate of 1% recovery. What do you think is failing PDM?
No, I think for me, it is too early to indict the PDM program for having failed on account of a very slow recovery, because the recovery period, in my view, has just started, because the PDM program started just yesterday. So it hasn't failed, in my own view, and I'm very sure that as we go along, this is likely to improve. But we must also understand that we have been in the election period, and it would certainly be extremely counterproductive to now start hunting people to pay when the next week you have elections and you expect people to vote. So I think now, without election in the next 4 or 5 years, I'm sure the recovery is going to improve. But by and large, is this money helpful? Is it for consumption? I was on this show some time ago and I said, yes, even if people ate the money, that in my view would be a success. But some people, I think, were not very happy with the comment like that one.
What did you mean to put across
but the bigger picture
that the
here,
money goes back to the economy?
If I start from the bigger picture here, is that some of us subscribe to the Keynesian theory of aggregate demand, that if you prop up demand in the economy actually grows faster than it should have been, because you have people who are able to get money in their hands and who are able to spend. And because of their spending patterns, then goods and services are going to be supplied, and the suppliers are going to get money, and that is how the multiplier effect actually works. And here we are talking about people who are at the lowest pyramid, meaning that they are not going to spend this money anywhere else except within the economy. They are not like me and you, who might actually go to eBay and buy online, or probably go to another neighboring country and actually spend this money. So we are talking about people who are spending money on ground. So for me, spending money at the lowest level, in my view, is good for propping up aggregate demand, which is a very, very significant part of. And maybe you could find that the growth that we are talking about in the last 3 years could somehow be attributed to some of these interventions. But looking at the...
When you go down in Ruchiga, in your constituency that you represent, are you able to point out success stories arising from PDM?
Yes, I think I am able to do so. And there's actually one of the coffee farmers that has been projected, who actually says he got the 1 million shillings and has been able to put up a successful coffee farm of not less than 100 trees, which he says he has been able to generate in the span of 3 years about an extra 1.5, and is expected, of course, to keep earning from that for a very, very long period of time. And there are many other success stories that we have met. We have also seen the ones that the president normally projects. Some lady who said that had never touched $1 million in her life, but right now she got $1 million and she was able to invest in chicken, to invest in piggery, and she has been able now to also be on her feet, unlike the period when PDM had not yet come. So there are those success stories. And it is true also that, of course, there are those that would have misused the money, so to speak, by not spending it on the enterprises that were selected or they had put in the application. So you'll find some of those outliers as well. But people who are going to be receiving PDM, especially now in the other subsequent cycles, are going to actually be more enlightened than those who received money in the beginning. Those who received the money in the beginning thought that PDM was going to be like that Intandikwa program. Some were saying, okay, maybe Mzee has said this is now Kasimo, and that maybe there will not be a period when people will start demanding for this money back. So I'm quite hopeful that because of the awareness that has come along the way, and because of the better understanding that this is actually going to be a loan that is going to be advanced to you, and then you pay back at some point, the crackdown on the parish committees, especially those that have been eating this money or taking advantage of the applicants, in my view, as we go along, the program is going to be better, and it's going to be more meaningful to the people. I had already addressed the question of the viability of 1 million. People are saying, okay, yes, the 1 million is too little. And I've said we have social protection programs like SAGE that has ably demonstrated that the 25,000 shillings given to an older person every single month has generated a rate of return on investment in which a shilling spent earns a 1.5 shilling that is returned.
So the money dispersed is not the problem,
the
amount.
Yeah, so for me, the amount still, in my view, is not a problem for a poorest of the poorest of the poor people. If they are able to utilize this money very well, it can take them somewhere.
Then, looking at the performance report of the PDM and these shocking figures, massive leakages, and things that have failed to be done, missed quarter reports, do you think that government should have halted the disbursement of new funds of PDM? Even the increment on the parish level?
Not really. Like Honorable has said, there are pockets of success. For me, I think moving forward, the gaps are clear. What needs to be done is clear. If the parish chiefs and the committees are weak, let us strengthen them. If there is fraud, let us do the monitoring. In fact, in your opening remarks here, you talked about accountability. Let people account, So we know the problem. Let us address that problem and let us name and shame. Let people be held accountable. But people need that money at the household level. For me, another issue which I see is how to make the PDM work better. I don't subscribe to the fact that you give the poorest of the poor, like Honorable is saying, to consume, to buy waraji and all that, really no. This money is supposed to help households to join the money economy. And that was in the document, So you need to have a business. If you have chicken, if you have 10 chicks, then you add on maybe another 20, So we need to generate income, economic activities at that level. A person who doesn't, poverty is not because you don't have money. No, money is not being poor. You can have land, you have some coffee. Maybe what the coffee needs is some fertilizers, to buy some chicken fertilizers. You have to have an activity, So, and people in the villages have that. That's why I was saying our extension workers, our community development officers need to do that. And one of the pillars was mindset change. You sit with the people, you tell them, you have coffee. Why don't you do ABCD with this 1 million? You have chicken. Why don't you do this? For me, I think the PDM can work. It can be utilized better, but there's a lot which needs to be done. Another issue is that when you look at our budget, we have been discussing this issue. The macro level is doing very well. Macro is okay. Macroeconomic stability, inflation is okay. There is growth, but down at the micro level, there's a problem. There are no jobs. There are no viable economic activities. So PDM for me and other wealth creation programs have to link up that, generate activities at national, at local level, which we can be able to scale up at the micro level so that we can be able to export, So it's a matter of thinking and rethinking how we can be able to use this money. By the way, this is a lot of money. 3.5 trillion, that's a lot of money, which can generate economic activities. But we need to plan for them. We need to plan.
But it's been 3 financial years.
Which is okay.
Disbursement of 3 trillion.
Which is okay. Development is not, you don't stumble on development. You plan, you learn, you relearn.
3 years is enough to tell whether
because even now what we are doing here is learning, looking at the gaps. The problem is that when these issues are aired out, maybe in the Auditor General's report, there is no action. But we need to address them. So 3 years is a short time. Don't be in a hurry. Let us move systematically. So let us address these gaps, and PDM will work.
Honourable, the program has been captured by the NRM political elite. They are the kingmakers at the parish and village levels. They are the ones that are deciding on who gets the money and how much they do get.
No, I think that is not a correct and fair statement based on my practical experience with PDM, particularly in Ruchiga County. At the time when these parish committees were set up, of course, there are guidelines, first and foremost. And I strongly doubt whether the people that were appointed to these committees were following political biases, like which political party you belong to, or which politician you support, and something like that. I don't think so. These were transparent, in my view, and there have also been scenarios where some people who have been accused of either soliciting a bribe or impropriety, the people have been removed and replaced with others. So it's been a fair process. And as far as I'm concerned, on the issue of selecting those to participate on those committees. Now, on the issue of demanding cuts before you are put on the list or before money disbursed to you, I think has been a widespread issue. And it was created, in my view, by the nature in which the program was designed. The design of the program at the onset was that 100 million was going to be spent on a parish level, and then it will be given every financial year for a certain period of time. That in itself creates pressure on the committees that are handling this money. Who is going to be in the first 100 people to receive this money? It is that pressure that actually creates an environment that can lead to some extortion of sorts. Because everybody is anxious to be on the list because the 100 million is very small. I want to give you an example of one of the parishes that we have in Ruchiga. It's called Chibanda Parish. Here you are going to have more than 5,000. We are going to have more than 5,000 qualifying people in a single parish. So, but here you have dropped in 100 million in that parish, and everybody is going to rush to be part of the first 100 million, rather 100 million. So that type of competition is the one that might lead some people to say, okay, please put me on the list, I will give you 100,000. Put me on the list, I will give you 300,000. And remember where we started from was that people were not so cautious that actually this is going to be a loan.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was limited publicity in the very beginning. It is now that people are waking up to say, hey, by the way, even when I bribed 100,000, but I'm going to pay 120,000 on top of the 1 million, so that people are going to wake up. So
you're saying that the program was rushed?
So the program, in my view, was timely because these people have been excluded from the financial markets. So it was timely. In fact, it was late. But in a manner in which it was implemented, it was rushed to be able to fit within the targeted timelines that were set up by government. So you will have some of those problems happening at the initial stages. But like my colleague Jen has said, we are learning lessons. A report like this one is very good. In your presentation, it sounds very explosive, but from where I stand, for me, it doesn't. For many reasons, you are talking about you are talking about the money believed to have been affected by either fraud or something like that. You're talking about 10 billion. 10 billion on a single financial year of $1 trillion is less than 1%. So now if you have people with multiple IDs, people with all these, and here, by the way, we're not being told whether actually money was spent and lost, or maybe it was flagged, and because it was flagged, that's why it is being reported this way. So that's still 1%. And then 1% on a massive program like PDM, it would still be manageable. We are talking about the collection rate of 9.2 billion. For you, are putting it against the 3.25, the 3 trillion. But the money released here, you're talking about 2.75 trillion. That is also less than 1%. That's which is bad at the beginning, but which we think is likely to possibly improve. So I'm very hopeful that a program of this nature, with political support, with the political will and political support from the highest level, is going to succeed if we correct the mistakes that are in right now. If all stakeholders, the RDCs, the chief administrative officers and others become very proactive, strengthen the parish committees on PDM, I'm sure this will be very successful, and we can only hope that it actually succeeds, because we have been given success stories where this money has created wonders in some households, and we expect the same to keep happening if this program is streamlined.
Jen, do you want to comment real quick on political interference? The political leaders at the parish level who are deciding on who gets the money and who does not.
I won't say because I'm not on the ground, but at least stories have.
In your village, have you been told that there are success stories of PDM?
There are some success stories, and the success stories are those people who already had something they were doing. You know, they have chicken, they have some pigs.
Okay,
and
not starting from scratch.
Not starting. You can't start from scratch. By the time you get an idea, the money has already gone somewhere. And on politicization, it has also been said about politics. If you're not an RM, sometimes you're not given the money. But the president in his speech talked about, challenged the opposition members to monitor all these programs. And for me, I think that's really good that they monitor what's going on, because he said that's our money. That's not another money. That's government money, taxpayers' money. So let the opposition members monitor, let them document what's going on for purposes of making right what's going wrong. And for me, I think it will be able to work. Because at the household, by the way, and at parish level, you know, there is a big gap when it comes to access to capital, patient capital. You know, when you look at the microfinance, money lenders at parish level, at village level, it's horrible. They take the land, they take everything. So this money is really important, you know. For us here in Kampala, we can say 1 million, what can you do? That's pocket change. But at household level in the village, that's a lot of money. But the challenge today, what needs to be done, is to make sure that that money really works. And I think when households can be able to work in circles, can be able to aggregate, for example, if they are doing maize, they can be able to aggregate their maize. If they are doing pigs, they can be able to aggregate. The whole issue is that information and mindset change, that you can be able to inject that 1 million in what you are doing in agriculture and be able to do better.
Well, Honourable, we've had this story before, and many are anxious whether parish development model, even after 5 years, will be a success, will be considered as a success, or it will follow the same fate as past programs, Bonaba Gagawale or Youth Livelihood Program. You know how much money has been invested previously in the Youth Livelihood Program, YLP, or even Emyoga itself. That after 5 years, in 2031, we'll be back here saying that's what we told you about. PDM was going to follow the same fate like the past programs.
I think, currently, let's not be very speculative. Let us identify the challenges that are affecting PDM right now. Let us prescribe the solution. And the solutions are very clear. Some of them, we have already talked about them on this show. Now, PDM intends to build strong circles in every parish in this country. And the 100 million, and now it's going to be 200 million, delivered at the parish level, is supposed to build people's capacity to participate in production and then actually build these efficient and capital-laden circles in every parish, the savings and credit cooperatives, so that they keep revolving and ultimately become gateways of access to cheap credit to be able to cater for the 40% of the people who might fall outside the money market. So for me, once this vision is sustained and we work collectively to ensure that in our respective portfolios, to ensure that this vision keeps alive, I'm very hopeful that this project, this program, is bound to succeed.
Right.
Unlike other programs like in Tadikwa, I don't think I've seen any program that the president has sung about. Almost on every, in the last 3 months, I have attended about 5 gatherings where the president has been required to make a speech, including on his swearing in, as to project the success of PDM. So, and he's tasking all leaders at all levels to ensure that to ensure that this program succeeds by doing effective monitoring. He has now even allocated money more than double. So the political will usually is the starting point in some of these programs, because these programs are highly political. So once the political will dies, they also collapse. But the foundation of the parish circle, of where there is an injection of 100 million, 200 million now, in my view, should not fail. And the foundation, the architecture in terms of the implementation for PDM plan, it should be the program that is supposed to succeed, actually not to fail.
All right, let's take a break. When we return, is there a brighter side to the parish development model, the success stories that we see projected by the president in his speeches? And also, what really can be done? Way forward. We'll return with that after the break.